I've spent 10,000 hours winning t-shirts at sushi restaurants, and here's what I've learned. The Anthony Carboni story. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
Anthony Space. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah, we are enamored of it. We know that it wants us dead.
And it definitely wants us dead.
And yet, I still want to kiss it.
Yeah.
I know it's the assassin sent to kill me. I know it's probably here to end my life. And yet, the allure.
Tantalizing. It's always there, always beckoning.
I want to tango sexily with space.
Well, let's talk about how we get there. How we get there. For decades now, we've gotten there pretty much one way.
Up.
We explode as much fuel as possible. As much fuel as it takes to break through our atmosphere out into suborbit and orbit. And it's a pretty messy process, pretty lossy, pretty expensive, pretty bad for the environment. All that jet fuel we can all imagine in our heads the launch of a rocket. We've seen those NASA videos of just the incredible amount of
But here's what we know,
fire
Jeff.
And smoke.
So much fire, so much smoke. But here's what we know, Jeff. Number one, it works.
It does.
Number two, it's one of the only thing that works because take a lot of force, a lot of energy to escape the pull of gravity, the Earth's atmosphere, and get out there into the death tango that is space.
Yeah, that's right. Before we even get to our death tango, before we even start worrying about how space wants to kill us, it's hard to get up into that space.
It's hard to get up out of bed. Imagine going to space.
Yeah, exactly. What if I told you, Anthony, that there is one company that is attempting to get rid of all that pesky fuel explosions and just throw stuff into space? Just toss it into space.
Like a pumpkin chunkin'.
Like a pumpkin chunkin'. It's the pumpkin chunkin' of aerospace is really what it is.
You son of a bitch, I'm in. Where do I give my money? This can't possibly be dumb.
No, there's nothing dumb about this. In fact, this is one of the coolest things I have read in quite a while. And it was posted on our Discord, which you can get exclusive access to by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. This was posted on the Science News channel by Mark No Name Nuffer. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
Sorry
Mark.
about that no nickname thing. But
no, that is his nickname.
It's no nickname. That's
his nickname is no nickname.
His nickname is no nickname.
Yeah. No, it's a great nickname.
Okay.
I'm incredible at nicknaming people.
Sure. All right. So this is a company called Spin Launch. It's based in Long Beach, California. And the news item that
all the best stuff is
the news item that Mark pointed us toward is the fact that they have just completed their 10th test flight of their suborbital accelerator system.
That means their next test launch is free.
That's my understanding. They have a little card, and every time they punch it. This is a 1/3 scale version of the thing they eventually plan to make. So this is the suborbital version. The actual one that was going to toss satellites and stuff into orbit is going to be 3 times as big. This is a 33 meter in diameter object. They're going to make a 100 meter one.
Okay.
So they haven't done it yet, but their 10th test launch has been a success. This was the first launch that they've partnered with any outside groups. They partnered with NASA and Cornell and Airbus. All of these partners were allowed to put stuff into the rocket to make sure that it wasn't damaged. They had all these sensors and stuff that they put in there. So outside third parties that were, disinterested in the financial benefits of this company, put stuff in there to see, hey, is this stuff going to be damaged by the process of throwing it into space? And it turns out, according to Spin Launch's press release, big success, no damage or very little damage or negligible damage. So this happened on September 27th, 2022, this 10th launch. And we see a picture of it if you're watching our video version. This thing is totally awesome as far as I'm concerned.
It looks like just a wheel with a tube coming out of the top of it.
Yep.
And I would imagine the wheel spins stuff up and just chucks something into space through the tube.
That's exactly right.
That can't be it. This cannot be the technology we're talking about right now.
It's so rad, dude. It's so rad. It's literally a centrifuge. It's a big disc with an arm in the middle that you stick the rocket at the end of, and it spins it around, and then it gets going so fast, 5,000 miles per hour, and then it just lets it go and it shoots it out the top. I mean, it's literally grab your little sibling by the arms, spin them around, and then let them go.
Wait, but it can't get all the way to space.
Oh yeah, buddy.
No.
The 1/3, this is suborbital, right? So the third scale version doesn't get to space. It gets into suborbit, but the eventual one that they plan to build by 2026 will.
They could have stabilized this GoPro footage. I'll tell you that much. We're watching footage of this launch. Then they attached a camera to whatever the payload was, and they're just letting it spin, and I am not liking it.
It got to 30,000 feet, which is the 1/3 scale one. This is the 33 meter diameter suborbital mass accelerator, they call it.
Okay.
This is the prototype for the 100 meter orbital launch version that they're going to do by 2026. And I think the idea of this is awesome. It's literally like, let's just chuck something into space. So what they say it will do is it will use 30% of the amount of jet fuel that you would assume is needed for comparable launches for SpaceX or, these companies that launch satellites into space for you. There's a bunch of companies, private companies that'll, launch satellites into space for various reasons.
Sure.
And they use rockets and they shoot a lot of jet fuel, and 90% of the weight of the rocket that they're shooting into space is the fuel. You're literally, you've seen, anybody listening has seen, shots of a NASA space launch where the thing will shoot all this fire up into space. And at a certain point, it'll eject that casing off and then have a smaller section that goes farther into space. Well, it's because all of that larger section was just there to hold fuel to shoot it up out of the atmosphere to fight gravity.
Okay. So this is going to use 30% of that fuel to spin up this arm. My question is, to get to space, how fast, how much force is required to chuck something up into low orbit?
A lot. A lot. So they're going to...
Because this is not, I'm picturing, like a sling, you know what I mean? So I'm spinning a string and around it is the payload of rocks, right?
Yep.
And then I let go, but I have to spin this thing up so fast to send the rocks flying.
Yeah.
What does it take to spin something up so fast that it goes to orbit?
They're going to spin it up to Mach 6, which is basically 2 kilometers per second.
That's faster. That's one faster than Speed Racer's car.
That is.
Or if you're a fan of the Wachowski movie, which I am, it's the car that he finally wins the World Grand Prix with.
I mean, spoilers, but yeah. So it's going to reach 10,000 Gs, which is 10,000 times greater force than its own weight.
So this is clearly never going to be something this is only for certain types of payloads because we're talking about such an amount of crushing force. Like obviously most mechanical equipment that has to go up into space is built pretty fucking tough. I would imagine that, these satellites are meant to withstand that, but certainly we're never sending up delicate experimental payloads. We're not sending up any kind of living things with this because they'll do it dead.
Well, definitely no living things. This isn't going to be how astronauts get to space anytime
I think
soon.
we should just chuck an astronaut up into space. If the astronauts think they're so cool, and tough and smart and so much better than the rest of us, why won't they let us just throw them into space?
This feels like the Goofy from Mickey Mouse Club version. Why
are you not willing, if you're such a cool astronaut, to wahoo hoo hui?
Exactly. Get goofy, astronauts. No human
George
being would...
Geef did it, and he's a single father with no education who's just doing his best.
Yeah,
but he's got more heart than all of you astronauts. Fucking idiots.
Well,
get launched.
You would be surprised. There's a great YouTube video from the Real Engineering YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
They're a huge YouTube channel I enjoy, and they did a piece on this. And according to Spin Launch, which is the name of this company, they have had a lot of success with only very minimal changes to the payloads. That yes, some of the payloads do have to have components swapped out or epoxy on certain things, but they describe one that had like a thing sticking up like a quarter of an inch protrusion. They're like, oh, that's going to get completely ripped off by our thing. And it came out and it was just slightly bent. And they're like, oh my gosh. And the engineers described having to relearn what they expect from how much damage this was due. So that's a big part of this 10th trial was to have other companies put stuff into the rocket and figure out, how big of a problem it's going to be. And I think they've been pleasantly surprised, at least according to their marketing.
So this is like, I've talked about this incredible game that we used to play as children before, which is push a guy in a box down a hill.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something about push a guy in a box down a hill. It's a fucking great game.
All the rules are right there in the title.
Yeah. It's easy to play. Yeah. It's fun to do. Everybody has a good time.
The onboarding is so quick.
There's not much that you need to know. But here's what I'll tell you about push a guy in a box down a hill. We found out very early on, and we were scared to do this because the guy in the box didn't want to do it. Whoever the guy in the box was, none of us wanted to try it. I believe it was David Ganzikoffer, the bravest of us all, who finally decided to try. He was our Chuck Yeager in this instance.
Sure.
And David Ganzikoffer agreed to volunteer to be taped into the box. So the box would be taped shut.
Safety first.
Well, this is the thing, Jeff. By taping the box shut, we were able to push a guy in a box down a hill at double the speeds and double the flips that we had ever been able to do, simply with a minimal change to the box. And I feel like this is what you're saying is it feels very dangerous, but in reality, there's only a minor change that needs to be made.
Exactly. Was David ever the same after playing the game?
David wasn't the same before the game, baby.
Fair
he
enough,
was that kid. If you know what I mean.
Kid. Chuck Yeager. So the actual details of how they pull this off, to me, are mind-blowing. So first of all, in order to sustain that kind of insane force, that centrifugal force that you're pulling on the end of this thing, because you've stuck a rocket on the end of a big rod inside this circular diameter centrifuge.
That's not what it is.
Yes. It's a giant rod, and you stick the rocket on the end of it, and you spin it around 5,000 miles per hour.
This is not a Bugs Bunny rocket on a string situation.
I'm telling you that's exactly what it is.
That can't be what's inside that wheel. That can't be science.
Yes.
That simply cannot be engineering.
That is the best way to do this. That's the best way to do this. And so they're trying to, the idea here is
the best
they
way to
want to
catch
be
a
able to do.
roadrunner, I'll tell you that much.
It is. Oh, by the way, this is the Acme company we're talking about. No, this is Spin Launch. And
a division
they
of
want to
Acme.
have these rockets, the rocket payloads, weigh up to 10 tons. Okay?
Okay.
So if you're going to launch something that is 10 tons into into orbit, it is going to need to be, because 10,000 Gs means it's 10,000 times greater force than weight. If you're going for 10 tons, then your arm has to be able to hold on to 100,000 metric tons. It has to be able to grip sustain the force of 100,000 metric tons.
This is why the Coyote could never get it done.
Exactly.
This is why the Coyote could never get it done.
Yeah.
That's an insurmountable engineering problem. Jeff, this sounds so stupid.
Oh, dude, I think this sounds brilliant.
No, I mean, it is, but it's stupid. This might be the first Brock situation we've had in a long time, where it's
just chuck it into the air, dude.
Dude, what we do is what if instead of launching the rocket from a big open area that's controlled and has plenty of space for the controlled explosion, we put the rocket in a can and we shake it around.
Yeah.
So it gets real fast, and then we let it out of the can. That's got to be probably better space.
Yeah. Like, I could throw this baseball at you, but if I did like a super duper throw where I spin around first, it's going to come at you so much faster.
Oh my God. It is. This is a grade schooler doing their special pitch.
Yeah. Super special pitch coming right at you. That's how my son thinks you put more on a ball. So the details of how they pull this off, because you go, yeah, this is dumb. And then you start thinking about it and you go, wait, that's not easy to have something. So 100,000 metric tons is the equivalent of 182 Falcon 9s. The Falcon 9 is the rocket that SpaceX shoots up into the atmosphere. So you need to have something that could hold on to the equivalent of 182 of those rockets.
My brain cannot figure out how this winds up using less fuel. This feels so complex.
Because it uses zero fuel to start. The 30% that it's using is the secondary thrusters. So it's going to chuck it into orbit, and then at a certain point, it'll lose its outer shell, and it'll be only the payload.
Yeah. And
the outer shell is there just to protect it from this whole process. The outer shell is carbon fiber. It falls away. And then it's got 30% of the fuel of a normal rocket is used to, position it in space. That's the secondary thrusters.
So what is the fuel? What is powering this gigantic arm? And how do they get this gigantic arm to move fast enough?
It's electricity.
I've never heard of it.
Let me get to that first.
I've never heard of it.
We're building something that needs to hold onto
because in my
the
head, this rocket was already firing when it's on the arm, and there's just this rocket was just exploding in a tube in a can.
I see what you were thinking. No. I appreciate that misunderstanding. That does seem logical that it was just like shooting its rocket fuel and spinning super fast.
No. I picture like a Marvin the Martian style, like there's a hand holding onto it. And it's just the rocket is launching and the hand is spinning around, and then the hand just lets go.
No, you thought of it like lighting a bottle rocket, but you still have a piece of string on it. And so it's trying to go, but it can't. And it's just spinning around and around and around.
Yes.
No, that's not what happens.
Like when we used to literally shoot bottle rockets at each other.
Right. No, this is literally a rocket with no jet fuel shooting out the back at all.
Okay.
Stuck to an arm that is, it's basically...
It's the Gravitron.
It's Gravitron. Yes. It's basically the same technology that giant wind turbines that do, wind energy. You're driving through the mountains and you see, these big, huge wind turbines, these massive things spinning around. It's the same kind of tech that they're using.
Yeah.
But it's a motor pushing that wheel, that arm around faster and faster and faster.
Dude, that's got to be a crazy powerful motor.
Yes. But they're using basically off-the-shelf stuff. This is a big, huge industrial motors, but they're possible. So, but before we get there, I have to tell you about the ARM.
Okay.
Because as I've said, 100,000 metric tons, that's like, what can hold on to that? Well, it's carbon fiber. And what they're building at this spin launch company.
I was going to guess Henry Cavill.
He was busy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But could have worked. Could have worked.
You seen the fucking guns on that guy? You remember when he was in Mission Impossible and he cocks and reloads his fists?
Ugh, so cool. And he's a nerd too. I love Henry Cavill.
I'm telling you. There's nothing this guy can't do. He probably worked on this.
He probably did work on this. So they've built these massive carbon fiber rods that can withstand this amount of force that won't break. And what they have created is the single strongest tensile structure on Earth.
Are you telling me
it literally has more tensile strength than anything ever that has existed on Earth?
Are you telling me that for this space mission, we can thank this inanimate carbon rod?
Yes.
Fucking hell.
Yes.
So they built this thing, this rod that's the ARM is carbon fiber, and you said it has the highest tensile strength of anything on Earth.
Yes.
Stronger than anything.
Yes. Specifically the one they are making.
How did they even come up with that?
Thing. Well, it goes into it on, I would recommend people that the math and stuff that we won't get into the nitty gritty on. If you're interested, I definitely recommend checking out the Real Engineering YouTube channel because they go into the equations of this stuff. But yeah, they talk about how they fabricate this carbon fiber, and it's incredible. Like the thickness and the weight, the heft of this thing is extraordinary, and it is the strongest tensile thing. Like it won't break. It won't break under 100,000 metric tons at the end of it.
We got to make everything out of this ARM.
I'm telling you.
No, I'm sorry. I know that I'm doing a Jerry Seinfeld bit right now, but I'm serious. Now that they've created this, I feel like they have to be making more than the ARM out of this. They probably patented this. Why aren't we got to make everything out of this ARM.
Well, it's not this method of creating carbon fiber is not new, nor is it unique to them. They're just doing it at a scale that no one has ever done before. They're just layering on enough of this stuff to create the biggest, most, the strongest version of this thing.
Make everything
they
out
show
of
like
it.
These little thin sheets that are extremely strong.
That's
they're doing it at a scale.
That's got to be so wildly expensive. I think about the cost of carbon fiber and like the cost of fabricating things out of carbon fiber. And I can't imagine what the cost of this ARM was to fabricate.
Well, get this. They talk about that and how this 1/3 scale version, the bigger one's going to be much more expensive. But the 1/3 scale version that they're testing now, they built for less than $2 million with 10 people. Crazy.
They did it in a cave with scraps.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. So we've got our ARM. It's extremely strong. It can hold on to this thing at the speed of 5,000 miles per hour, right?
Yeah.
It can hold 10 metric tons at 5,000 miles per hour under 10,000 G's of force. That is already amazing. We got more problems, okay? Because if you move something that fast through the air, aerodynamic heating obliterates it. It will create so much heat moving something that fast in a small chamber that it becomes impossible. So
they
have to do it. They have to do it in a vacuum.
They gave up. They went home. They said, fuck it.
They have to create a vacuum. So this giant 33 meter now, but going to be 100 meter circular centrifuge.
This thing, for anybody who's like wondering, this thing to me looks like a garden hose dispenser wheel, kind of.
Yes, exactly.
But it's all covered up, and the hose can only come out of one tube at the top.
Yep,
that's what it looks like. And so I thought that the housing
was
like
a big number 6.
Yeah, I thought the housing was probably there to protect everybody. It was probably there for safety reasons. That probably is some of it, but it also has to be a total vacuum.
Yes. So because if there's any atmosphere in there at all, the molecules of the atmosphere will heat up and destroy the inside of this thing. So they have to maintain this 100
Why doesn't it
meter...
explode the moment it comes shooting out of the tube?
Well, that's a very good question, Anthony. So it's super important that they maintain the vacuum after this thing shoots out. So how do they do that? Well, they developed a 2-stage airlock system on the tube. The bullet chamber, the tube that it's shooting up out of, has this 2-stage, these doors that close. That one opens, it goes in, and one closes. It has to do it so fast because this rocket is being shot up out of the top of this thing that they created a double door airlock that closes in 30 milliseconds. The doors slam shut in 30 milliseconds.
That's 2 frames. That's 2 frames of a video game.
Yeah. They show it in the video too. It just goes, and it's like the loudest banging. It's crazy. So they'll do 2 of those doors because if any of the atmosphere gets in, we got problems. We got big problems. So they have to maintain that vacuum, which also means they load the payload in the rocket itself in a vacuum as well to make it so you don't like repressurize and depressurize and all that stuff. This massive area, they have this like ancillary chamber where they load the payload and then create a vacuum and then put it in the vacuum so that it's all easy.
So my dumb brain wants to know, we've got this 2-stage airlock, right? This thing's flying out. It's flying at this speed that's like this crazy speed. If there's any air, the friction it'll melt into a whatever.
Yeah.
How much, I guess, how much does it slow down between the tube and the airlock to where hitting the actual atmosphere to get thrown? Do you know what I mean? Like, why doesn't it explode the moment it leaves the airlock?
Well, it does start slowing down, and there's equations for all that, right? It's basically like shooting a bullet out of a gun.
Yeah.
You know, it starts slowing down immediately as it hits and, fighting against gravity, but
so they just have,
right.
So they just have this tube measured to the exact length to where the speed has slowed just enough to where this thing doesn't destroy itself.
Exactly. And in fact, in the third scale version,
bonkers.
It's bonkers, dude. The whole thing is bonkers. In the third scale version, they only have one of the 2 door airlock, the double door airlock things. The second layer, it's just the first layer because it's smaller. And so it's, I guess, it's not as, it doesn't need to have the double situation. The secondary thing is literally just sheets of Mylar. So when they show you the video of the third scale one, the one that they've been testing, it comes bursting out of this Mylar covering.
Happy
and so it's
birthday.
like ripping out of it. It's so rad looking. It's really cool.
Dude, this is wild.
Okay, so there's more problems. So you're spinning something 5,000 miles an hour, and then you let go of the thing and you shoot it out the top, right?
Yes.
Well, what happens when you're spinning something that fast that is balanced to have something that's 10 tons on the one end, and then all of a sudden it's not holding 10 tons anymore? It's out of balance.
Yeah, when you spin around real fast and you let go of the other kid, you go flying backwards and you trip over.
Exactly. Big problems, right? So if you let go of the 10-ton rocket, your thing's going to start breaking. It's going to, it's out of balance, and it's going that fast. It's going to completely disintegrate, and it's going to blow itself up inside.
Right. So Indiana Jones style, they swap out the rocket for something else that weighs 10 tons.
Well,
imperceptibly. And then they start slowing it down.
You're not too far off.
I know, I'm brilliant.
It's just the inverse of that. The current way they're doing this is they just have a counterweight on the other end of the arm that also is released, and they have an armored section inside the centrifuge, an armored wall, and it releases this weight and it slams into the wall. And what they're doing right now is they built the weight out of fiberglass. So it just hits the wall and goes boom. It just completely explodes.
This is just this feels like the junior high science club with unlimited money. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
This feels
so
like
audacious.
This feels like some kids that are like, did you ever do Odyssey of the Mind? I did Odyssey of the Mind in junior high, which is like they would bring a bunch of kids. You would volunteer for Odyssey of the Mind, and they'd bring a bunch of kids, and they'd be like, you have 14 toothpicks and one sheet of paper, and you have to build a structure that lets this egg fall 3 stories.
Right.
And you have an hour to
solve
do
the
it.
problem.
And and all these different schools would compete. That was like Odyssey of the Mind. This feels like Odyssey of the Mind with like unlimited budget. This is just like, well, what if we throw it up into the sky? Oh, well, it looks like we throw it up into the sky. It burns up. Okay, well, what if we suck all the air out of the bag? All right, well, let's suck it. You know what I mean? It's just like...
Yes. It's so crazy because the solutions they seem so simple, but they hide a complexity in execution. But like the idea is, okay, well, we lose all this mass by shooting the rocket off. What do we need to do? Well, we need to lose more mass. All right, let's just throw some mass off and let it explode inside the thing. So it gets even better than this, though.
What do they do with all that fiberglass?
Well, that's the problem. They're like, this is messy. It's untenable. Their goal, Anthony, is to do 5 launches per day.
That's too much fiberglass.
Reusable. Yeah, you'd never be able to clean all the fiberglass out between it. They said they can do potentially up to 10 launches in a day, which sidebar, shows you how often we're shooting stuff into space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a tenable goal for, or something you might need just industrially.
This is something that we've talked about. I don't know that we've ever done a full episode on it, and I'm sure the concerned citizens will let us know if we have. But we've talked about the amount of space junk and satellites that are just floating around out there. It's crazy. It's an insane number of satellites.
Like, hey, we can shoot every day. We can put 5 more things into orbit. That's
and we
nuts.
need to. We need to.
And there's demand. It's crazy. Okay, so because they want to do it that way, here's the solution. Here's the solution to replace the fiberglass. This is what they're literally talking about doing.
Putting
a second rocket. We shoot one out. 1/2 rotation later, we shoot another one out. And they say that because it's going so fast, the amount of time to get to a 1/2 rotation isn't enough that it'll cause a problem.
So it keeps grabbing new rockets until they launch 10 of them. And then after the 10th one, they smash some fiberglass.
No. You just do them in pairs. You have one end of your rod with a rocket and the other end of your rod with a rocket. As long as they weigh the same, it'll shoot one out and then a 1/2 rotation later, shoot a second one out.
And then now that levels the rotation.
Because it's lost the same amount of weight on either side.
Oh my God. But then how do we smash a ton of fiberglass?
Well, this is replacing smashing the fiberglass.
No. You're not hearing me. I got 2 goals here. I want to fire a rocket, but I also want to see 10 tons of fiberglass explode.
Yeah.
Like I want 2 cool things.
2 cool things. Yeah.
I want 2 different cool things.
Okay, so you asked about energy. So it takes evidently about 100 megawatts to launch one of these rockets into suborbit or into orbit eventually. Okay. They're saying 100 megawatts, which is the equivalent. They say 60 to 70 megawatts is like 100 Teslas, driving.
Mm-hmm.
Not
for how long?
100
Teslas driving
that's a good
for
question.
how long?
He said it was about 100 Teslas, but I don't know what that means. Like just start to go to 60. I don't know. He didn't. Yeah. He wasn't clear.
700 megawatts.
So 100 megawatts is what it costs. That's the equivalent of 8 tons of rocket fuel.
Okay.
And similar sized rockets to what they're putting into space weigh about 12.5 tons. So, and 90 to 95% of that is rocket fuel. So they're basically, it's replacing, the entire payload of rocket fuel in these equivalent rockets with electricity.
Okay.
So they're saying that the energy cost would be about $6,000 just pure electricity per launch, which is
That's like
extraordinarily low.
That's like nothing. And then, but they still have rocket fuel as well.
Yeah,
But
it has for when it gets into orbit and needs to the secondary stuff.
So they take away 70% of the cost of the rocket fuel, which the rocket fuel has got to be, God, what? How much does rocket fuel even cost? Like, that's got to be insane. Like,
no, but they're saying that their cost per kilogram of putting stuff into space is like $2,500, which compared to SpaceX or somebody, they're more than double, triple that.
So we're looking at something. It says here a total of about $900,000 for a SpaceX to put fuel into a SpaceX reusable rocket.
Yeah,
$900,000.
And Spin Launch says they will offer their service of launching your satellite into space. Their goal is to offer that service for $500,000.
So right now we can assume that if SpaceX is using $900,000 worth of fuel, that means that these guys are using a little over $250,000 worth of fuel per rocket, plus the $6,000. So they are operating at $276,000 versus the $900,000 that SpaceX is just using for fuel and not other launch costs.
It's crazy. And everything they have is reusable. They've already had tests where they shoot the rocket up.
Not that fiberglass.
Well, not the fiberglass, but that's what I said. They're trying to move away from the fiberglass. But all the carbon fiber, the rocket itself, they've had them they just had it fall to Earth after shooting it up into suborbit without any mitigation, and they've had to dig it out of like they had to dig down like 6 to 8 meters in the ground because it landed in the ground, but it was fine. It's because it's wrapped in carbon fiber. It's like it's all fine. It's amazing. And they plan to have parachutes and stuff to even mitigate that further.
This is wild.
It's awesome. And the cooler thing about the energy thing is they do 100 megawatts, but they're going to have regenerative braking so that when the thing spins down, it actually generates electrical energy again. It stores the energy in kinetic energy when it's spinning. And then as it spins down, it will actually pay back some of that energy cost.
Wow. That's
pretty amazing, dude. I saw this and I was like, that's goofy, which is kind of what your reaction was. And then you read into it and you go, this is utterly brilliant.
Yeah, this is insane. So 100 megawatts, they're saying powers about 100,000 houses with 100 megawatts per day. That's 100,000 houses. So it's still using a lot of electricity, but if it's using regenerative braking and it's using, solar or other clean sources to sort of help them use some of that energy or offset some of that energy. Yeah. I mean, and still electricity is, even if you're talking about nuclear electricity from a nuclear plant, it's still, in all honesty, cleaner than shooting fucking methane gas.
Yes. Burning rocket fuel, an obscene amount of rocket fuel to get a rocket into space. Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty revolutionary.
No pun intended.
Hey.
It is. They say that it rotates inside at about 450 times per minute to get to that velocity. It's just spinning the ever living shit out of a rocket and then letting go of it and shooting it. And it's basically a bullet. They talk about how the entire structure of the thing, it can be different. It doesn't need all of the the kinds of shielding that you get on space shuttles and stuff to get back in reentry because it's just dealing with heat differently. They have the rocket has like a copper and aluminum bimetal cone at the front that absorbs the heat energy and distributes it down the shaft of this huge rocket. And so they don't need all of the cooling and insulation that you get on those panels that are super brittle and super prone to error and need to be replaced.
Have you ever seen like the ceramic shielding on a space shuttle when it comes back into Earth, and how much of it is like charred and like busted off and stuff? And that ceramic shielding is like crazy expensive
because it's super brittle, because it has to be really low weight and high surface area. They just don't have any of those problems. They're just doing things completely differently.
Now, you say it shoots out like a bullet, and then you also did say that when they had to get this, I'm going to call it the carcass, when they had to retrieve the carcass of the rocket ship, and they found it buried 9 meters underground. I guess my question is, they shoot it straight up. What's the radius where like, hey man, don't stand here, bullet falling from space?
Well, yeah, they definitely only build these in very remote locations. They talk about that. So yeah, I mean, I guess they have the trajectory mapped, right? They know exactly the trajectory of this thing because it's all math. They can tell you exactly based on
they know pretty much where it's going to come down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they just make sure that's not around anything they want to not be obliterated by a falling bullet.
Yeah. We don't want like a Dead Like Me pilot situation going on.
Yeah, it's not Final Destination over here.
No, we're not. We're not in the Brian Fuller verse. I think this is so cool. Right? It's the low techness of it all that makes me happy. I think we're in and I don't know whether that's because we're in a space now with environmental and capitalistic and economic concerns where I genuinely distrust anything that feels bloated corporate high tech. Like even right now, I'm a big believer in NASA. I love it. But right now I'm sort of like, well, I understand why we're not giving a lot of money to NASA right now. Like now is not the time to give a lot of money to NASA, Now is not the time. I don't want them to be giving a lot of money to SpaceX or anything like that. I'm like, as much as I love space exploration, I feel like we got a lot of busted stuff that we need to take care of, especially after the last few years. So there's something about like a small team making something that's inexpensive, reusable, that accomplishes this very high-tech goal that's part of our infrastructure that we cannot get rid of now. Like we need to launch satellites into space. We need to figure out a better way to do it. And we need to figure out a better way to use fewer satellites for everything because of the amount of space junk. But right now, for our infrastructure, for the way the world works, we need all these satellites in space, or most of them. So we have to find a way to get, and I just love the idea of like, yeah, man, we made a big ass rubber band. Do you want to use our big ass rubber band? What do you need? You need to put a satellite up? Me and Dave will do it. We'll do it for $20.
Yeah.
Like there's something I just love about it.
Chuck it. It's so cool. It's the idea of, we really could, if we just spin this around fast enough, we could chuck something that's 10 tons into space.
Just spin it around, dog.
Crazy.
Listen, NASA's going to charge you like $1 million for this. Dave and I will do it.
Yeah.
Dave and I will spin it real good. We'll just chuck it up there.
Is this the same Dave that went down the hill in a box?
Yeah. But he's the guy that invented the tape of the box.
Oh, sweet. He's got great ideas.
We'll do it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Only one kid ever hurt themselves. Well, badly.
And it's Dave.
I think it was David, if I'm honest. I remember like somebody sprained an ankle playing push a guy in a box.
That seems like the least of what. Nobody can remember all the concussions.
No. That's the thing about concussions. As long as you live through them, you don't remember them and it's fine.
You don't remember them. Yeah.
You don't even need to think about them.
The more you have, the less you remember them.
So they have their 1/3 prototype going right now. They just invited these companies to launch some stuff. It seems like everything went well. What's the timeline for this?
Yeah, like I said, 2026 is when they plan to have the full 100 meter size one. But if you've seen the images of the 33 meter one, and it already looks insane. Like the idea of having one 3 times that size is just bonkers to me.
It's stupid. It feels like going to visit the world's largest rocking chair. Do you know what I mean?
It really does. It doesn't look like a high-tech piece of equipment. It really doesn't.
It's just a stupid thing that shouldn't be there is what it looks like.
Exactly. It's so cool.
And it's too big. It's like bigger than it should be. Like I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at the pictures of the people standing in front of it and I'm just like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Look at this dumb disc.
I mean, it looks like something you'd put Hot Wheels into or something, like
it does. It has
it around and it'll shoot right out.
It has an orange loop-de-loop feel about it.
But they've raised, I guess, like over $70 million of venture capital funding for their next round, and like this is happening. It's happening. They proved that it works. It's like it's pretty wild.
This is going to revolutionize state fairs everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, listen, and I mean, just in terms of, I think maybe, well, certainly bang for your buck, but also safety. I don't know if you've ever seen like when one of those Gravitrons or zippers, when it starts making the noises like it's definitely going to fucking bust.
Yeah. Like a bad, clothes dryer.
Yeah, it's like and like you hear it and they shut down the zipper and they're like, okay, everybody go home right now and pretend you were never at this fair. And like I feel if they're not using carbon fiber now to revolutionize the carny industry and the state fair industry, they are missing a huge opportunity. I feel
like the carny state fair industry is always the last to get it, though. You know what I mean?
I feel like what I've always heard,
the cutting edge.
No, what I've always heard is the technology either trickles down from NASA or the state fair. It's either NASA, the state fair, or military, and then it trickles down into consumer hands. If you think
that's
about
how we got the internet.
Yeah, if you think about the number of things that we use every day that came from that swinging pirate ship,
zippers. Where do you think that came from?
That came from the zipper. Think about it. It's right there in the name of the ride. The Gravitron. Think about it. Think about how many things you do every day. We didn't have washing machines until somebody built the Gravitron. Did you know that? Dryers, washers and dryers. We didn't have them.
Yeah.
And then somebody was riding the Gravitron and they were like, what if we turn this vertical and put clothes in it?
Yeah.
And the guy who was working it.
That person? Bill Dryer.
Think about it.
Very strange coincidence.
Wow. Really makes you think. I think this is wonderful. I'm looking forward to 2026. Where are they launching these things? Where are they located?
It doesn't say where the launch happened. Let me see if it mentions it here in the article.
They said they're from Long Beach, right?
Yeah, they're based in California. Their facilities in Long Beach, but it's New Mexico. Of course it was New Mexico.
Of course it's New Mexico.
Spaceport America in New Mexico is where the launch was.
Oh, Spaceport America is the second biggest spaceport in the Southwest, and they have an Auntie Annie's pretzels.
Yeah, well, I guess.
And one of the last.
How else are you going to feed the engineers?
And one of the last FYE for your entertainments.
Oh, really? Does that still exist?
Yeah, at the spaceport, the Great American Spaceport.
Very cool.
I wonder if you can like sign up to go watch one of those launches. I saw they had a crowd in front of it.
Yeah, they had 150 people there at the last one. So
I'm going to see if we can see. I'm going to go see if we can see one of those launches. I want to watch him. Right? I want to watch him throw something into space.
Yeah,
I'm going to tweet at him. I'm an influencer. Do they have influencer passes to the space slingshot? or any coupons for Auntie Annie's pretzels?
That would be cool. You should be like, hey, I want to pitch you an idea. Watch something get flung into space, get a free Auntie Annie's. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win. Plus, it's your 11th launch next time, so it's free. You're making money on this.
You are.
Thanks, Mark Knuffer, for sending this in.
Yeah. Very fascinating story.
If you want to see more stories like this or suggest some stories or just share some stories that you've seen recently with like-minded folks, other concerned citizens, best place to do that is on the Discord. And the way to get access to that is to head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns and support us for just $1 a month or more. And remember, as you support at higher levels, you get more for your money, including bonus episodes, extra videos, and early episodes. So check it all out at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. Now, if you launched pretzels out of that,
into my mouth.